So this is the completion of the 1/3 of the Bhagavad Gita, this chapter. As we know, the Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters. First 6 chapters are on Karma Yoga, middle 6 chapters on Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 chapters on Jnana Yoga. These are compared to the jewel box. Just as in a jewel box, you have a lid and the base and the jewel inside. So the first 6 chapters are compared to the base of the jewel box, and the middle 6 chapters are like the jewel inside the box, and the last 6 chapters like the lid. The word yoga comes from the word yuj, or connect. So unless things are connected, they do not move forward. So here it says dhyana yoga, or what should be the object of our meditation. That is very important, because the mind is a very important faculty. So we saw in the last chapter, towards the end of the 5th chapter, it said Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. Vita means become free. Raga means attachment. And from attachment comes Bhaya, or fear, that you may lose it. And when you eventually lose it, you become angry. Krodha. So how to overcome this Vita Raga, Bhaya and Krodha? There Ashtanga Yoga, or the Eightfold Yoga system, was prescribed. So this has 2 stages. One is at the lower stage, and that is known as Aruruksha, and to Aruda, or the advanced stage. Just like if you are going from one place to another, you know where you begin and where to end. So similarly, in the yoga, Eightfold Yoga system is compared to a ladder, and you are in the beginning of the ladder, and what is the topmost portion of the ladder? That is being explained here. So in this chapter, Krishna is talking about how yoga and sannyasa are same. Sannyasa means, as I said many times, when to accept and what to reject. Sannyasa means you are accepting something. Normally people think sannyasa means you reject. The true meaning of sannyasa is you accept something higher and give up what is lower. And therefore it says yoga and sannyasa are same. Unless you connect with something higher, you cannot give up something lower. So that is the main point. And there are 2 levels on this Ashtanga Yoga process. Beginning stage are known as Aruruksha stage, and advanced stage are the Aruda stage. So why we have to know this is, at these 2 different levels, you have different practices to follow. Just like when you go to school, in the beginning they teach you some things for the benefit of your learning. But as you learn, some things which you used at a lower level are no longer used, because you have reached a particular stage where you don't need those support elements. So like this, in the yoga process, what you accepted in the beginning may be rejected in the higher stages. You don't hold on to those same things in the end. And this chapter, Krishna talks about how the mind is the friend and enemy. Mind is our constant companion. And he talks about the symptoms of person in the advanced or yoga ruda state. How do I know I have attained perfection in yoga? So while practicing the Ashtanga Yoga, or the Eightfold Yoga process, there are some basic practices recommended and the goal of the Ashtanga Yoga. So in this, the perfectional stage, in the practicing stage, we have some 8 processes. And then the advanced stage, we have realizations of perfection, different stages of perfection. But depending on the perfection you achieve, you are known as a Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, or Bhakti Yogi. So the main perfection of the Ashtanga Yoga process is to see the super soul. As we discussed in the last chapter, there are 3 doers for any action. One is the living entity, material nature, and the super soul. Ultimately, without the super soul sanction, no action can succeed. So therefore, this yogi, if he wants to attain perfection, he has to be connected with the super soul who is residing with the living entity and also in the material nature, in the atom. So what are the methods to attain this yoga rudra stage and the success formula of bringing the mind back? Because the mind will keep on wandering from its goal, and it has to be brought back time and again. And once you are able to do that, you are able to attain the Brahma Bhuta, or the Brahma means Atma, Bhuta means realizing. Because in the second chapter, Krishna talks about the difference between the soul and body. And towards the middle, he concludes that very difficult to realize this truth. So but it is possible by suitable practice to realize that I am the spirit soul and act on that platform. Then he is able to realize Paramatma is also who is identical to him in terms of quality. That is Brahma Sansparsha. Sansparsha means he is able to perceive that the Lord is residing with him every moment. And therefore, he is able to see the presence of the same Paramatma everywhere, in all living entities and all the material nature surrounding him. So then Krishna talks about the actions of a perfect yogi. Now, then comes the topic of necessity of controlling the mind. Because Arjuna thinks that this Ashtanga Yoga is impractical. Because for this, the main thing is the mind control, sense control. So, which he thinks is not possible for him, especially because he is a Kshatriya, passionate by nature, and he is a householder with so many responsibilities. And then Krishna offers a solution that is, it is difficult to control the mind, but it is possible through suitable practice and detachment. Practice means what you should do, and detachment means what I should not do. Just supposing a patient goes to the doctor gives him a prescription as to what he is supposed to do and what he should avoid. So unless you do this, there is no possibility of controlling the mind. And then Krishna's conclusion is that mind control is a must for yoga. Because as we discussed in the earlier chapters, the senses are superior to sense objects, and the mind is superior to the senses, intelligence is superior to the senses, and the ego is superior to the intelligence, and the soul is superior to the ego. So if this hierarchy has to be properly established, mind control is the main element, because unless the mind is in control, you cannot control the senses. Controlling senses means, again, I say, utilizing the senses properly. You should know what to see, what to hear, what to smell, taste, touch. If that is in order, then the working senses also will cooperate. Now, Arjuna asks another question. Supposing I take to this yoga process, and if I am unsuccessful, supposing you registered yourself for a course, and in the process you give it up in the middle due to whatever reasons, then Arjuna is inquiring about the fate of such a fallen yogi, because he gave up the material life and took to this process of yoga, followed some rules and regulations, and he could not complete it. Therefore, he is neither here nor there. So then Krishna's reply is, for yogi, there is no misfortune even in failure. Just like in the chess championship between Carlsen and this Vishwanath Anand, both of them got a prize, even though one was the runner-up. So like that, in this yoga process, even if you fail, something you will get. There's nothing to lose in this process. And whether it, depending on whether he fails in the beginning or at the advanced stage, he gets the different types of reciprocation. And therefore, he can resume from wherever he fell off and continue. Supposing you're doing a course previously in IIT, that rule was there, that if you're not able to go ahead with the course, you think you're not doing well, you can put a W grade is given, so that maybe some other time you can complete it. So now Bhakti Yogi is the topmost yogi. Why? Because when you do Bhakti, you are directly connecting with God. And therefore, even though there are so many mistakes in you, he can help you overcome that, as we'll see in the 10th chapter also. Therefore, Krishna concludes by saying that here yogi means actually Bhakti Yogi. Supposing you are doing a B.Tech or M.Tech, although ultimately when you complete the course only, you can say you are a B.Tech. So similarly, yogi, what is the full definition of yoga is when you reach the purpose of yoga, which is bhakti. Therefore, he says bhakti is superior to karma, jnana, and ashtanga yoga. Because whatever results you get by karma yoga, jnana yoga, and ashtanga yoga, you can get through bhakti, and also more than what these other processes can give. Because Krishna is the Yogeshwara, is the master of yoga. So if he certifies, yes, that you are tightly united with me, then you get the full benefit. So who's a bhakti yogi? Who serves Krishna is the best of all yogis. So in the previous chapter, Krishna described how to attain liberation by Nishkama Karma Yoga and also by Ashtanga Yoga. This is a Nishkama Karma. There are different types of Karma Yoga. What is Sakama Karma Yoga, where you're attached to the results. Then you have Nishkama Karma Yoga, where you are trying to detach yourself from the results. You are attached to the work and not much to the result, so that you can perform your work better for yourself and the benefit of others. And then we are talking about here Ashtanga Yoga, how to become free from attachment, fear, anger, which are obstacles to yoga. So now in this chapter, Krishna talks in detail about how this Ashtanga Yoga, Eightfold Yoga process, is a means to control the mind and the senses. And so before practicing this Ashtanga Yoga, some prerequisite is there. Just like if you want to do an advanced course, the basic course has to be done. So if you want to go through this process of Ashtanga Yoga and control the mind and senses, the prerequisite is you should have already been detached from the results. So, but it's generally very difficult to come to even Nishkama Karma Yoga. How many of you are willing to work without getting attached to the results? But nevertheless, that is the requirement. And therefore, this Ashtanga Yoga is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. So here, where generally this age, we are quarrelsome. We disagree easily with others. And we cannot cooperate with others. So therefore, this Ashtanga Yoga is generally difficult for en masse. And before Krishna first talks about Nishkama Karma Yoga, which is more practical form of yoga than Jnana Yoga. Now, how do we advance in this yoga ladder from the beginning to the perfection? So the beginning is known as Arurukshu and the advanced is called Aruda. So first Krishna begins by saying that how a real sannyas, how a sannyasi is same as a yogi. As I said again, sannyas means to accept something valuable and reject something which is not so important. So that is possible only when you are connected to something higher, then you can give up the lower thing. Anasrita karma phalam. Karma phalam means the fruits of his work. Anasrita means one is unattached. What does it mean unattached? He knows that whatever activity I am doing is not by myself. I am dependent on material nature. I am dependent on the super soul. And ultimately, I am the soul and I am not the doer. So this way, by knowledge, he is understanding that I am not the cause for the results. I can only do the karmanyeva adhikarist. I can only have a right to perform the duty. I cannot dictate the results. So whatever be the results, I should be able to continue with my work, and that is what gives me satisfaction. Karyam karma karodya. Dutifully performs his prescribed work as per scripture. So whatever thing is prescribed to me, I continue to do with my duty without attachment to the result, dutifully. And Sir Sannyasi Chogija is a real sannyasi and a true yogi. In other words, yoga and sannyasa are interlinked. One cannot be a yogi without practicing sannyas, one cannot be sannyas without practicing yoga. So one may think sannyas doesn't apply to me, but sannyasa is required. Everyone has to practice sannyas. Otherwise, we cannot move forward in life. We will be forced to give up this body eventually. That's also one kind of sannyas. So we should learn to give up something. Supposing you have a diabetic, you have to learn to give up sugar. If you have a BP, then you have to reduce your salt intake. So like that, we are forced in life to give up some things. So better voluntarily give up by accepting something higher. Na niragnir na chakriyaha. Niragni means who lights no fire, who doesn't put an endeavor. There are some people who don't want to go through the trouble of doing something. So I have to collect money, I have to do this, I have to collect, meet so many people. Some people think this too much effort, let me not do, because it involves so much effort. So here it says light no fire means he's not willing to go through the trouble of performing this sacrifice. And another thing is, and not he who performs no work for bodily maintenance. The other extreme is a person is not even bothered about his bodily maintenance. So these two cannot be qualified for sannyasa yoga. One who desires practicing Ashtanga Yoga should not suddenly give up prescribed duties. Prescribed duties means according to our nature and abilities, some prescriptions are given, like whether you should be a married person, whether you should be celibate, whether you should retire, whether you should renounce, or whether you should be intellectual class, whether you are administrative class, whether you are a business class, that is then, or whether you are a labor class. So this is prescribed according to our guna and karma. And why it is prescribed? For our purification. So just like you're trying to learn swimming, you make so many mistakes. But because you are making mistakes, you cannot say, no, I will not learn. By learning, you perfect it. So similarly, this karma yoga is not our original nature, but by practicing this according to our guna and karma, we gradually elevate our consciousness. Although working, since the karma yogi renounced the results of his actions, he is called a sannyasi. What is renouncing? Renouncing means, as I repeatedly say, how he knows how to utilize the results of an activity. Sometimes failure comes, he is able to utilize it to his favor. Sometimes success comes, he is able to utilize that also to his favor. And he is called a sannyasi. And because his mind doesn't dwell on the enjoyment of sense object, he is called a yogi. So what is enjoyment of sense object? I see something, immediately I like it. But many things are very look to the look, they are very good, but they may be poisonous. Or you hear something, you immediately attracted, but they may not be really good for us. So like this, whatever we gather through our seeing, smelling, taste, and touch, they may appeal to our senses, but they may not be really good for us. So therefore, he doesn't jayate vishayan pumsa, because he knows that if he doesn't follow his intelligence and just goes by what his senses dictate, then he cannot control his senses. So here Krishna wants to emphasize that how yoga and sannyas are same. Unless you accept something higher, you cannot give up something lower. That is a fact of life. Supposing you have two jobs at your disposal. Unless you have a better job, you cannot give up the present job. So detached action is the same as renunciation. For one can never become yogi unless he renounces the desire for sensation. So how do you progress in life? By giving up the lower desires and accepting higher desires. Just like a child is there, he has lower desires. He is satisfied playing with the toys. But as he grows up, he has higher desires, which may enable him to give up the lower desires. So sannyasa means to be fixed in jnana, characterized by stopping the function of the senses or renouncing the results of action. So what is real knowledge? Knowledge means we are able to utilize that knowledge to act properly in life. Otherwise, the senses want to go their own way. I want to do whatever I want, but with higher intelligence, I restrain myself. Yoga means to have a mind which is not agitated by the thirst to enjoy sense objects. All the time, my senses are dictated. Sometimes students become addicted to what they're seeing. I heard sometime one student was throughout the day he was watching movies or hearing some music or always playing. So this is a agitation by the thirst to enjoy sense objects. But how much ever you do that, the senses will never be satisfied. Therefore, both could mean the same, that sannyasa and yoga. In the first two verses of this chapter, Krishna said that an Ashtanga yogi should not give up Nishkama Karma Yoga. Because Ashtanga Yoga, as we said, is very difficult to practice. So, artificially, one should not try to follow this Ashtanga Yoga, especially in Kali Yuga. Therefore, better to be attached to the work and gradually detached from the results. So, in other words, giving up work in this world is not easy. In the name of bhakti or in the name of knowledge, you cannot give up work. And that sannyasa and yoga are same. So, should the Ashtanga Yoga practice Nishkama Karma for his whole life? Then the question may arise, okay, it is difficult. So does it mean I can continue with whatever I am doing and maybe a little bit Ashtanga Yoga? No, that is also not what Krishna wants to say. Now, there are different levels in this Ashtanga Yoga process, as we said in the beginning stage and the advanced stage. And there are 8 limbs of yoga. First is yama. Yama means don'ts, regulations or prohibition, what you should not do. Like, for example, you should not eat too much, you should not sleep too much, you should not play too much. So like that. Then niyama means what you should do, or rules or prescriptions. Like you should eat sufficiently, you should sleep sufficiently, you should have sufficient recreation, you should control, you should regulate your breathing, all these things. Asana means sitting posture or asana, bodily exercises, so that the airs within the body are in equilibrium. Then pranayama or breathing exercises. Body and the breathing should synchronize. And then you have pratyahara. Ahara means food. There is food for the eyes, food for the ears, food for the nose, food for the tongue, and food for the skin. So all these have to be regulated, withdrawing the senses from sense objects. And then you have dharana, means fixing the mind on the Lord's form. So there should be an object of meditation on what we. So form means here, Lord's form means Lord's name, quality, activities. You should know, supposing you want to progress in life, you fix your mind on a person who has that qualities. Gradually you move towards that person. Then dhyana, intensified meditation on the Lord, where you are able to get closer to him. Realization is there. First it is theoretical, then you get realized knowledge. And then samadhi, complete absorption and trance, means where there's a reciprocation between the Lord and the devotee. So just like Arjuna was in samadhi, because whatever Krishna is telling, he is able to assimilate and act according to Krishna's instruction. So samadhi doesn't mean you rest in peace. Normally they say so and so was put into samadhi, which means his life has come to end. But real samadhi means when we really begin our activity in perfection. So Arjuna was in samadhi, therefore he was able to focus during the battle and do his action properly. So here there's a detailed chart. I will not go through this. What are the 8 stages in this Ashtanga Yoga process? So in the beginning stage, there are some recommendations. Just like as you have a disease, for example, when in the beginning of the disease, the doctor will prescribe something. And as you get cured more and more, then he will relax those prescriptions. So similarly, in the beginning stage of the yoga, you perform prescribed duties. The cause of elevation. That is, you should do this. Like that, they will say, okay, as a Brahmana, you should do this. As a Kshatriya, you should do this. As a Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Brahmacharya, Sannyasi, you're supposed to do. Like this, there are some do's. And one should cultivate detachment and also practice yoga. So while doing our this regular duties, we should also try to regulate our some of these activities. Why that is required? Gradually become detached. Because after some time, you realize that what I'm doing is not really beneficial. Just like a child is there, initially he likes to play, but eventually he sees that because of his playing, he's not doing well in studies. So then he comes to a senses. So it gradually purifies the heart from fruitive desires. So the desires are actually within the heart. Actually, you don't need many things, but we cultivate a desire for that and we think, oh, it is very essential for me. So therefore, unless the heart is purified by this Ashtanga Yoga process, where you learn to regulate, just like the healthy people are those who regulate their lifestyle. So Yoga Rudha, the advanced stage, in the beginning stage, basically you have to follow the prescribed prescriptions according to the Varnashrama, gradually purify from the Tamoguna to Rajoguna to Sattoguna, and be situated in that state. The advanced stage one is completely purified of material desires. So desires must be there. Without desires, we cannot exist. But they need to be purified. Just like you're taking some water or milk, you want to purify that and take. Why? Because it is beneficial. Similarly, when our desires are pure, then we can really act on them and achieve the goal in life. So he can give up Nishkama Karma Yoga and practice Ashtanga Yoga. So when our desires become purified, you become qualified to do this Ashtanga Yoga, which can give much more benefit. So that is the point. The benefits of Ashtanga Yoga are more than Nishkama Karma Yoga, but from the practical point of view, in general mass of people, they can attach to the results or they're gradually detaching from the results. So for them, better is they do Nishkama Karma Yoga and gradually come to this Ashtanga Yoga. Then one either acts for sense gratification or engages fruitive activity, that is the stage of steady meditation. So he is able to fix his goal on higher and higher things. And what are the 8 limbs are depicted in the flowchart? Mind control and detachment from sense objects are the requirements to come to the yoga. So how do we advance through this Ashtanga Yoga process? Basically, 2 things are there. The more we control the mind, controlling the mind doesn't mean stop the mind. The mind should be under the control of the intelligence. Intelligence should be under control of the ego, and ego should be in the control of consciousness of the soul, and the soul should be under control of the super soul. This is establishing a hierarchy. That is meaning of mind control. And then detachment from sense objects. The senses are inferior to the mind, but they tend to pull the mind, just like the horses are trying to drag the chariot. And this is the requirement to come to the yoga stage. So in the next 2 verses, Krishna describes the importance of mind control and thus discourages Arjuna, indicating the impractical. So now when Krishna is presenting a higher subject matter, Arjuna becomes immediately discouraged. So then we'll see how it progresses. Therefore, Krishna tells how mind is both the friend and enemy. Why is this mind control important? Unless something is explained as to its importance, we won't take to it. At the same time, we cannot immediately follow those things. Uddared Atmana, Atman Atmanam. Uddared means deliver. Atma and Atmanam. Here, Atma can refer to the mind, it can refer to the body, it can even refer to the senses and the soul. So, this one must deliver the soul by the help of the mind. So, in one word, Atma means the mind, in other case, Atma means the soul. So, Uddared, one must deliver the soul himself by the mind. Mind is actually material, the soul is spiritual, but the soul needs the help of material to uplift itself. Natmanam avasadayet. Natmana means mind again. Avasadayet means one shouldn't degrade himself by the distracted senses. The senses are trying to pull the mind in a different direction. And Atmeva hi Atmano Bandhur. Here Atma means the mind. Atmano Bandhu. It is the friend of the soul. What kind of a mind? The controlled mind. Atma hi Ripur Atmanaha. Ripu means enemy. So the uncontrolled mind is the enemy of the soul. The same thing can be our friend or the enemy depending on whether we control it or not. Bandhur Atmanastasya Yenatmaiva Atmana Jitaha. Bandhu means mind is the best of friends for one who has conquered it. Anatmanastu Shatrutve. Anatma means uncontrolled. Shatrutve means enemy. Vartetatmeva Shatruvat. The mind is the greatest enemy for one who has failed to conquer it. So this is a fact of life we might have understood through our experience. So how do we know a person has controlled his mind and practiced detachment and reached the advanced stage? Jitatmana prashantasma. Jitatma means he has controlled the mind. Mana, Atma means here mind. Jita means controlled. Prashantasya, he's attained tranquility, his peace of mind. When is there peace of mind? When the mind has a higher purpose. It's not, peace of mind doesn't mean mind is calm and doing nothing. Peace of mind means mind is properly engaged. Mind is an energy which has to be utilized properly. Paramatma samahitaha. So in that stage, he is able to get closer to the super soul who is constant companion. And Shitoshna Sukadukeshu. Shita Ushna means hot and cold, the extremes of life. Sukadukeshu means happiness and distress. Neutrality to all dualities, heat and cold, happiness and distress. It doesn't mean he's indifferent to that. He's not affected by that. Both are required. Sometimes you need heat, sometimes you need cold, happiness, distress. But he is neutral. Tata manapamanayo. Honor and dishonor. Apamana means dishonor. Mana means honor. Someone praises you, sometimes someone criticizes you. Okay, you accept it in a sportive way. Yes, yes. Then Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. Jnana means knowledge. And Jnana means realized knowledge, practical knowledge. And therefore he is satisfied in this knowledge and realized knowledge. Kutasto Vijitendriya. Kuta means situated. And where Vijitendriya, self-controlled. The Jitendriya means Jitendra, means he has controlled self, situated in transcendence, Kutastha. And Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi. Yukta means he is connected. Uchyate Yogi means said to be. Self-reliant and is called yogi or mystic. He has achieved perfection. Samaloshrashma Kanchana. So Sama means he is able to see with equal vision. Loshtra, pebbles. Asma means stones, and Kanchana, gold. What does it mean? Can we equate pebbles, stone, and gold? No. He understands that these have the relative use. Sometimes you can use pebbles to do a job where stone and gold cannot help. Sometimes you need stones to do a job where pebbles and gold cannot help. Sometimes gold does the job where pebbles and stone cannot do. So they have the relative use. So therefore he knows he doesn't waste anything. Okay, I need pebbles for this purpose. I will also need stones for this purpose. I will need gold for this purpose. Like that, he knows that all are equally useful. Suhran Mitradi Udasina. Suhran means well-wisher. Mitra Ari. Mitra means friend. Ari means enemy. Udasina means someone who is indifferent to him. Madhyastha means neutral. Dveshya means enemy. Bandhu means friend. Sadhu means pious. Papeshu means sinners. Samabuddhir vishishyate. A further advanced person is equipoised to all people, well-wishers, benefactors, neutral, mediators, envious, friends, enemies, pious, and the sinners. So this is what we come across in our day-to-day life. And just like we have a balanced meal, we eat all kinds of things because we know they have their relative use. So we should accept all these things in life. Having described the perfection stage of Ashtanga Yoga, Krishna will now describe the activities in the practice stage, the method to achieve the goal of it. Okay, he has talked about the highest stage. Now, how do I start from where I am right now? So what are the stages in the yoga practice? One is always engaging the body and mind and self in samadhi. Yogi yunjita satatam. The mind, body, and the soul need constant engagement. Living alone in a secluded place. Rahasi stitaha ekaki. Ekaki means alone. Rahasi means secluded. Stitaha means place, staying. So what does it mean? Of course, in the beginning stages, you may have need some isolation, just like I'm doing this class in an isolated room. Yes, that is required, but sometimes you cannot get a secluded place. In other words, even if you are surrounded by people, you should not get disturbed by that. So that is that. Always carefully controlling mind. Yata chitta atma. Chitta means controlling. Atma means the mind. Yata. Always. Free from all desires and possessiveness. Nirashir aparigraha. Nirashi means free from. Asha means desire. Nirashi means free from. He knows that ultimately the life is designed such a way that all my desires will be fulfilled. So unnecessarily, I should not accumulate desires. And then possessiveness means you try to hold on to something which you cannot. That is aparigraha. Parigraha means possessive. Aparigraha means no, not possessive. Because you have to maintain relationship, but you cannot become overcome. Basic practice of Ashtanga Yoga: sitting firmly in a clean, sacred, and secluded place, not too high, not too low, or on kusha grass with the deer skin and soft cloth on top. So these are some basic recommendations if you want to practice Ashtanga Yoga. One is in a clean place, sacred place, secluded place, generally a forest, not too high because it may be difficult to climb up, and not too low because some insects will come and bite you. Kusha grass, they can ward off evil elements. And deer skin, because when deer skin is there, snakes and reptiles will not crawl on that. The soft cloth to not get disturbed. And fixing the mind on one point, ekaki, controlling the mind and senses, one to do yoga for purification of the consciousness, Atma Vishuddhaye. So the mind has to meditate on some mantras, some sound vibration. Being erect, why we have to sit erect? There are 6 energy centers in our body, from the Mooladhara chakra in the top to the Adhara chakra at the bottom. So through these chakra, energy flows, and the soul is captured in this body because of this life hairs. So unless you sit erect, there's no free movement of this life hairs in the body. So therefore, keeping the body, neck, and head straight, being motionless and firm, staring steadily at the tip of the nose. Why you have to stare at the tip of the nose? Because if you open your eyes, you get distracted. If you close your eyes, you fall asleep. So this kind of a midway is recommended. Meditating on my form. So you should, when you meditate on some form, when you know about that form, you should have learned about the Paramatma in the heart, how he looks. Supposing you are looking in the distance and someone says you look at that object and you are looking and you're not finding that object, then he will say, okay, it looks like this. This is how it looks and this is how you should look for. So like that, unless you have knowledge about what is the goal of yoga, you won't be able to meditate on that. Withdrawing the mind from sense objects, being fearless with a vow of celibacy, making me the ultimate goal of life, matpara. So celibacy means not being attracted to the opposites. A person may be married and still be celibate, or a person may be unmarried and still be distracted. So this is so then so what is the goal of Ashtanga Yoga? By practicing control of body, mind, and activities with regulated mind, Niyata Manasa, the yogi attains first benefit is cessation of material existence, Nirvana Paramam. What is cessation of material? Does it mean you give up this world or give up material life? No, he is not affected by what is happening temporary. Cessation of material existence means he is not disturbed by the temporary things of life. He accepts them. Lord Krishna, and he attains the Lord Krishna's kingdom, Mat Samstham. While in the material world also he is not disturbed, and he is also able to attain the spiritual kingdom, where is the eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So, what are the recommendations in Ashtanga Yoga? What are just like you? There's a recommendation for you to do something properly. First is diet control. Don't eat too much or too little. If you eat too much, you become diseased. If you too little, also you get diseased. Sleeping too much is also harmful. Sleeping too little. Recommendation is 6 hours per day. And regulation happens of eating, sleeping, recreation. Recreation also required. All study and no play makes like a dull boy or something like that. And all play and no study makes him not intelligent. So like this. And work mitigates all material suffering. If you are able to regulate your eating, sleeping, recreation, and work, even work should be regulated, then you can mitigate all material suffering. Yuktahara viharasya. Yuktahara means regulated in ahara. Diet means diet not only for the food, eating, it also means diet for seeing, smelling, tasting, and touching. Viharasya means eating less. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Activities should be regulated. Swapnava bodhasya means sleeping less or sleeping more. And yogi bhavati dukkha. Dukkha means one who can become free from dukkha or suffering. Ha means freedom. Now, what is the perfection stage of Ashtanga Yoga? It involves disciplining mental activities of consciousness. Viniyatam chittam. The consciousness is control, is pure. Being fixed in the self or transcendence. Atman eva avatishtati. He is able to realize that I am the soul. Act on the platform of the soul. Atmani. Devoid of all material desires. Nispriha sarva kamebhyo. So then what about desires? Yes, the soul also has desires. Those are pure desires and they will be fulfilled. But these material desires which arise by the body and the mind, they cannot be fulfilled. That is the way of life. And just as what is the analogy? Yata deepo nivatasto. Nivata means there's no air. Supposing a lamp is there and there's no wind blowing, then the lamp is very steady and does not waver. So, Nengate sopama smrita. Yoga, yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogam atmana. So, just as a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the yogi whose mind is controlled, yata chittasya, remains steady in his meditation on the self. So, he is able to realize his self and he is able to see the Paramatma at this stage, who is his constant companion and who is well-wisher, and he is the sanctioner and witness. So, and the realization, the perfection, samadhi of Ashtanga Yoga, what is the realizations? What does he experience in this stage? Consciousness completely restrained from material mental activities. The mind is always accepting, rejecting. So he is able to restrain it, unless which not too much. And one can see the self by pure mind and satisfied with it. Just like a glass, water is there, water is stable, then I can see through the water. So when the mind is pure and stable, then I am able to perceive everything clearly. One gets boundless spiritual bliss by spiritual intelligence. So then is intelligence of the soul. The soul also has intelligence, mind, senses, and so that becomes activated and not material senses. Because just like a person, supposing I am using spectacles because my eyes are not in order. So like that, we have acquired a material intelligence, which is not the perfect thing. And one has never deviated from the truth of one's spiritual nature. So he always remembers that what is his original nature. Having obtained this, he thinks there's no greater gain. He is fully satisfied, situated in full determination. So he is able to practice this yoga with full determination. He doesn't get deviated, and until the goal is achieved, he will not stop. One is never shaken even in the greatest difficulty. So ultimately, the difficulty is coming from the mind only. So because he is fixed in his intelligence and consciousness, even the mind is giving some disturbances, he is able to go through. Yam labdva chaparam labam manyate nadikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukkena guruna api vichalite. Guru means heavy. Even the greatest difficulty comes, he is not wavering. Yasmin sthito na dukkena. Even in the greatest dukkha, distress, manyate nadikam tataha. This state of samadhi or trance called sampragnata, asampragnata samadhi. Sampragnata samadhi and asampragnata. Samadhi means a person is very peaceful when everything is what he wants is there. Supposing you have money, you have wealth, everything is there, then you are happy. That is sampragnata samadhi. Asampragnata samadhi, even if they are not there, supposing you don't have money, you don't have good health, you don't have friends, you are not dependent on them, and still you are able to remain peaceful. So that is the real freedom from all materialism. Because if you are dependent on something for your peace, and if they are not there, then you become disturbed. So here, Sampragnat Samadhi involves meditation on various gross and subtle objects. One comes to transcendental position by various philosophical researchers. So even to maintain peace in our day-to-day life, we need some basic essentials. If they are not there, we get disturbed. So some arrangement we have to make. Supposing I don't have money or good health, some problem is there, then I can also not practice Samadhi. So that is one stage. The highest stage is Asampragna Samadhi, involves meditation with no object. You're not dependent on the externals. One becomes transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from the senses. Attaining perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. What is realizing? What is the perfection? Realizing the super soul. Because the super soul is also in the body and he is not at all disturbed in any situation. Even when we die, the super soul also leaves the body, but he is not disturbed. But whereas we may get disturbed and the people around us. So what is the method to attain this Yoga Rudha stage? First is determination, nishchayena. Once you take this practice, you should be determined. Just like people started attending this course, gradually they dropped out. But one should be determined if you want. Then nishchayena, without deviation, anirvinna chetasa, the mind will always give us directions to go this way and that way. You stick to the path. Giving up all material desires, fleeting desires. Some desires come and go. Just like children are there. Once they want something, you buy that, then they'll say next something else. So these are known as these material desires. Desires must be fulfilled, but you should not give importance to fleeting desires, which are born of mental speculation. Kamams tyakva. So the mind keeps on creating desires. Oh, I want this, I want that. But if you don't use the intelligence, then you get carried away. Controlling all the senses on all sides by the mind. The senses are going in different directions. You want to see so many things, smell, taste, touch. All the time, our mind is bombarded with these senses. But you should control them, just like the horses want to go in different directions. So what is the final state? Gradually coming to trance. So what is trance? Trance means you are able to see yourself clearly, where I am going, where am I now, where I should go, how I should go. Gradually coming to trance through intelligence sustained by full conviction. So the intelligence becomes more and more refined. It's fully convinced about what you're doing, why you're doing, how I should do. And thus fix the mind on the self, thinking of nothing else. So he's always remain focused on what he is and what to whom he should be attached to. Shanai Shaner, Shanai means every moment. Uparamed, Buddhya, Driti means determination, Grihitaya, Atma Samstam, Manakritva, Na Kinchit, Api Chintayet. We'll go faster. Yeah, what is the success formula in yoga? Bring the mind back. Again, the mind goes, you bring it back. Yato nischalati. Yato means wherever and whenever. Nischalati, mind, wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature. Manas chanchalam, unsteady. Astiram means unsteady. Flickering means chanchalam. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, why? Due to passion or past attachment. The mind is attached to its past desires and is always passionate. Passionate means I want this, I want this, I want this. Tatas tato niyamya. One must certainly withdraw the mind. Niyamya. Niyamya means withdraw. Atman yeva vasham nayet. Bring it back under the control of the self. Vasham means control. Nayet means bring back. And then to bring back the mind in this way, the yogi will again experience the bliss of samadhi and comes to the stage of Brahmabhuta or realizing Atma and Paramatma. So what is the Brahmabhuta stage? He is able to transcend the three modes. He is able to see himself and God. And therefore he is always bliss of samadhi. Brahmabhuta platform, realizing Atma. The yogi whose mind is peaceful, Prashant Atma, or being fixed in me, attains supreme bliss. Because the Lord is always blissful. When you are in contact with a blissful person, you also become blissful, natural. is devoid of passion, Shantarajasam. Passion means it looks like happiness, but it brings suffering. Free of sin, Akalmasham. Sin means you have contradictory nature. And realizes his qualitative identity with the Brahman, Brahma Bhutam. And Brahma Sansparsha platform. So Brahma Bhuta platform is realizing myself. Brahma Sansparsha means realizing the super soul, realizing Paramatma. Thus, by constant practice, the self-control yogi is freed of all sin. Vigata Kalmasha. Kalmasha means sin. Vigata means free. Contacts the Supreme Spirit, Brahma Sansparsha, and attains supreme bliss. He is called Jivan Mukta. Even while he is in this material world, just like if you are on the boat in the midst of the ocean, you are unaffected. So, like that, even in this material world, he is not affected by the circumstances. Now, what is the vision of such a perfect yogi? Sees Paramatma Krishna everywhere. Very important verse. Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam. True yogi observes me, the super soul in all beings. The super soul is present in all beings. Sarva Bhutani Chatmani also sees every being in me, which means he sees all the connection of all living entities with the Supreme Lord. Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma. Indeed, self-realized person sees me because he sees everything connection with the Paramatma. Sarvatra Samadarshana. The same Supreme Lord everywhere. We saw in the last chapter, he's able to see the Brahmana, the dog eater, the cow, and the elephant, because he knows that the soul is in all the bodies is the same, and the super soul is present in all the bodies. And not only that, the super soul is present even in the atoms. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. For one who sees me everywhere, sees everything in me. Just like the sun is there, the sunlight is present everywhere. At the same time, everything are depending on the sunlight. Tasya aham na pranashyami. I am never lost to him. Sacha me na pranashyati. I am never lost to him, nor is he ever. I remember him and he remembers me. So what is the actions of a perfect yogi? Worships me. Worships me means he uses his body, mind, and senses as directed by me. As one, though situated in all entities, a super soul, and thus exists in me in all circumstances. He is able to see just as the sun is present everywhere. So similarly, he is able to see the presence of the super soul in all the living entities and all the material elements. Seeing all beings equally by comparison to his own self and considers their happiness and distress his own. Last class, one person asked, when I am suffering, how do I take it in life? So this is very important. But I am not alone in my suffering or in my happiness. If I have happiness, I'll share with others. If I have distress, I share with others. Then we can easily solve many of the problems. Arjuna felt now, the real point is Arjuna felt that such equal vision cannot be long lasting. One can maintain such equal vision for friends or neutral persons, not for enemies. Although this is theoretically very nice, but is it really practical? Can I consider my enemies as equal to my friends? So now Arjuna speaks to Krishna that the practice of Ashtanga is difficult. So Arjuna's concern is Ashtanga yoga is impractical due to the fickle mind. Oh Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have described appears impractical and unendurable. Unendurable means maybe I will practice for some time, but ultimately I cannot continue it forever. Why? Because the mind is restless and unsteady. The mind sometimes accepts, sometimes rejects. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Chanchala means flickering. Mana means mind. Oh Krishna. Pramati means it is turbulent. Balavat means strong. Drida means obstinate, stubborn. Tasyaham nigraham manye. Nigraham manye means to subdue the mind. Aham means I. Vayo rivasa dushkaram. It's more difficult than controlling the wind because you have the windmill is there. Windmill is there. If you go to southern India, there are so many windmills. They harness the wind energy. The fickle mind, what is the fickle mind strength? Although the discriminating intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, the obstinate mind attached to enjoyment often overcomes the intellect. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but Arjuna found it impractical for an ordinary person. So in the next two verses, Krishna gives solution for dealing with the mind. Even for Arjuna, who was a devotee of the Lord and a Kshatriya and very qualified, he himself saying that it's very difficult to control the mind. So what is Krishna's solution? By practice and detachment. You should accept something, you should reject something. Just like the aircraft is there, it's giving up the running on the ground and flying in the air. So likewise, Asamshayam Mahabhav, Krishna agrees with him, yes, undoubtedly, Asamshayam. Mahabha, oh mighty armed, even though you are mighty armed Arjuna, for you I understand, for you also it is difficult. Mano Dunnigraham Chalam. Why very difficult curve the Dunnigraham Achalam? It's restless. And Abhyasena Kaunteya. But oh Arjuna, by Abhyasa means practice. Vairagya means detachment. One can so you should feed the mind with something, and you should deprive the mind of certain things. Just like a doctor is there, he's prescribing some diet and he's giving some restrictions. The conclusion is Krishna says mind control is a must for yoga. If you really want to advance in life, this mind has to be trained like this. For one whose mind is uncontrolled, self-realization is difficult, but it's possible for one whose mind is controlled and who endeavors by appropriate. So you have to adopt the suitable practice. Yoga practice without controlling mind from mental enjoyment is a waste of time. So if you're trying to do yoga without controlling the mind, as we see in one of the yoga centers are there all over the world, they teach yoga, but they never teach mind control, at least most of them. They only teach you some bodily exercise and say that this will make you very healthy and all these things. But ultimately, even the strongest person is not able to control the mind. And it's like igniting a fire while pouring water on it. On one side, you're putting water on the fire, and again, you're trying to light the fire. So these are two contradictory things: enjoyment and sense control, mind control and enjoyment. They cannot go together. The yogis who control the minds and give up their propensities for material enjoyment, perfect their yoga, and finally attain liberation. Having heard from Krishna that one should endeavor to control the mind in the practice of yoga, Arjuna became inquisitive to know what happens to someone who fails to continue his endeavor. Okay, now Arjuna is convinced, but still he has a doubt. What happens if I am unsuccessful in this process? Supposing you're taking a very difficult course, and you may start thinking, what if I don't pass this course? So, uh, so that's what is the inquiry. Uh, if one takes up the yoga with faith but fails to continue due to unsteady mind and thus does not attain perfection, what would be his destination? Doesn't he fall away from both the spiritual and material success and perish like a raven cloud? I see no one but you who can dispel his doubt. Now there are three paths. The one is the path of karma yoga, and then there's the jnana yoga, and then the ashtanga yoga, and then there's bhakti yoga. Self-realization sought by the path of Jnana Yoga, by the practice of Eightfold Yoga system, Ashtanga Yoga, and by devotional service. Now, Krishna is going to recommend, therefore, to Arjuna that Bhakti Yoga is more practical and giving the highest result. In each of this process, one has to realize the constitutional position of the living entity's relationship with God. What is the purpose of yoga? Basically, three purposes are there. One is we should know what is our relationship with Ishvara, the controller. Then in that relationship, how I should act. That is Abhideya. First is Sambandha, then Abhideya, how I should act. And then what is the goal of that relationship? Supposing you have a relationship with someone, you want to see what is the purpose of this relation. What is it I should achieve? So that is the achievement of love of God. When you love God, which means you serve God, then you're able to serve other living entities, and that gives the greatest happiness. So Bhakti Yoga is the best path because it is the most direct method of God. Because in Bhakti Yoga, you are directly in connection with God. Supposing you are trying to become rich on your own, but if you have a very rich person as your friend, then it becomes much easier. So like that, if you want to become famous and you have a person who is very famous, then it becomes very easy. So if you want to become intelligent, you have an intelligent friend, it becomes so. Ultimately, Bhakti Yoga is said to be uh, why? What is that? One more advantage. Even a little endeavor on this transcendental path offers a great hope for deliverance. Uh, no misfortune. Arjuna, one who is engaged in auspicious activities, Kalyanakrit, does not meet the destruction or misfortune, either in attaining spiritual goals or material. So if you talk to this Bhakti Yoga process, you won't lose materially and spiritually. That is the guarantee which Krishna is giving. Yoga Kshemam Vahamya. I provide what you lack and preserve what I have. So this has been our practical experience in this process. We have not lost anything, we have gained on the contrary. Unsuccessful yogi who falls after a short while. There are two stages in which a yogi can fall down: in the beginning of the yoga process or in the advanced stage. Accordingly, Krishna gives him some benefit. If he falls down in the Prapipunya Kritam Lokan Ushitva Shashvati Sama Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Prashto Vijayate. If he falls in the beginning, in the next life he is able to continue from where he left off. And if he falls in the advanced stage, then Krishna makes there, he is born in a very pious or rich family, so that he doesn't have to work hard to practice yoga. So But if he falls down in the beginning, then he's given an opportunity to go to the heavenly planets, enjoy life as much as he wants, and then come back and resume. So in both cases, one revives the divine consciousness of prayer. He can remember what happened, at least the essential things he will able to remember. Just like we see some child prodigies are there. Why? Because they are carrying the memory from the previous life. And he continues with the determination in this life. He naturally becomes attracted to yoga. And examples are King Bharata. Bharata was, as you know, Bharatavarsha. It is named after one King Bharata. He renounced his kingdom and family, but he got attached to a deer at the end of his life. So he took birth as a deer. But in the deer body also is remembered that he failed in the yoga process. And therefore, next birth again, he became Jadabharata and perfected his life. So what? And such yogi, sincere endeavors of perfection, being washed of all contamination. So why does he fail? By that failure, he purifies himself, he corrects himself, and it's not a failure in that sense. He ultimately achieves the failure is a stepping stone to success for such a person. So now Krishna gives his conclusion. Yogi is greater than tapasvi, jnani, and karmi. Yogi means here refers to a bhakti yogi. Yoga is complete only when there is bhakti. Even you may do karma yoga, jnana yoga, and ashtanga yoga, but if there is no bhakti, you won't get the results of karma, jnana, and ashtanga yoga. Tapasvibhyodiko yogi, jnanibhyopi matodika, karmibhyaschadiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. A yogi is greater than the ascetic. The one who is performing austerities, better than him is a bhakti yogi, and better than the jnani who is simply cultivating knowledge, better than them is a bhakta, because knowledge is giving some advancement. And yogi is greater than fruity worker. Some person is just working for the results, better than this a bhakta because he is working for Krishna. Therefore, Arjuna in all circumstances become a yogi. So what does a yogi ultimately mean? He is connected with the highest person. Just like if you want to go to the highest floor in a multi-storied building, there should be a lift room on the top. So like that, if you want to go to the highest in yoga, you should be connected to the Yogeshwara, that is Krishna himself. And the last verse says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamomataha. So Krishna concludes this 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and by saying that of all yogis, the one who always abides in me, madgaten antaratma, thinks of me within himself. In other words, always meditating on Krishna's instructions and Krishna's guidance. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. Shraddha means faith. He has unflinching faith that if I follow this process, I will attain success. And therefore, he implements that in practice. That's why it says bhajatam, worships. Samaya yukta tamo mataha is most intimately united. Krishna himself is giving his opinion. So we'll stop there. And just here a summary of all the chapters so far. And we'll not take it anymore.
Okay, so we'll come to the questions and answers. The first question is from Banashri Mataji. Is perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga called Yoga Root stage?
Yes. Yoga Ruksha means beginning stage, and Yoga Rudha means advanced stage. So why this distinction is given this? Although you are following the yoga process, what is recommended in the beginning is not applicable in the final stage. What is in the final stage is not applicable in the beginning stage. Just like an aircraft is there, when it's running on the runway, it is following some rules. And once it is in the air, then it doesn't follow the same rules. So that's what you cannot follow the same rules throughout the yoga process. You should gradually change the rules. That is the meaning.
Okay, the second question is from Dr. Rati Pradha. Hare Krishna, are there sitting postures good for chanting also?
Yes.
What is the best position to chant?
Padmasana, sitting erect and neck straight. Even if you see from the medical point of view, there are so many benefits in sitting straight. You become easily tired if you don't sit straight. But if you sit straight, it's very helpful to fix the mind or senses and also for chanting purposes.
Banashri is asking, in between Dhyan Yoga and Karma Yoga, which is easier? It depends on the person. Each of us have our own constitution, our own consciousness. So for some people who are used to a lot of work, for them Karma Yoga may be easy. For some people who are more on the intellectual platform, for them maybe Dhyan Yoga would be easier.
As we see in the last verses of this chapter, Krishna says, better than this Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga is Bhakti Yoga. Because although we are saying mind control, it's not possible to control the mind. Only when we surrender to the mind to Krishna, then he is able to control the mind, because the mind belongs to him ultimately. So anyway, Karma Yoga means where you are practicing yoga through action. And Dhyana Yoga means, yes, you regulate your action and you're more focused on the mind. So Dhyana Yoga is slightly higher than Karma Yoga, but as she was saying, some things are, for some people, Karma Yoga is more practical. For some people, Dhyana Yoga is more practical. But in any case, Bhakti Yoga is practical for everyone.
Okay, so the next question is again from Dr. Ratiprada. Can you summarize the yoga ladder in few words?
So as we saw, there are three levels in this yoga ladder. One is the Karma Yoga, where you have two types of Karma Yoga, Sakama Karma Yoga and Nishkama Karma Yoga. Sakama Karma Yoga means you are attached to the results. So for that, you have the Varnashrama system. Because people have three gunas, Sattva, Raja and Tamo guna. Accordingly, they have to fulfill their desires. The same thing which satisfies one person may not satisfy another person. So that's why sometimes a brahmachari is happy, but and the grihastha is happy, because each one is situated differently, but what gives happiness is different. Some person is happy being an intellectual, some person is happy being an administrator, some person is happy being a businessman, some person is happy being a worker. So this Karma Yoga is, first level is Sakama Karma Yoga, where attached to the results. Then there's Nishkama Karma Yoga, where you are cultivating knowledge of the soul, and you're gradually detached from the needs of the body and the mind. But then next step is Jnana Yoga, where you're trying to go beyond this subtle body and gross body and reach the Brahman platform and get liberation, impersonal Brahman. That is Jnana Yoga. We're only interested in cultivation of knowledge and renouncing work. But then the problem is, you cannot be happy in this condition. You will only realize the eternity and knowledge feature. Then higher than that is Ashtanga Yoga, where you are trying to control the mind and the senses and meditate on the super soul in the heart. But super soul is only as long as you're in the material world. So what about going to the spiritual world? So for that you need to do Bhakti Yoga. And so these are the four stages, mainly Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga.
All right, so the next question is from Khushbu Goyal.
So Karma Yoga gives elevation to higher planets. Jnana Yoga takes you out of this material world, but not to the spiritual world. Whereas Bhakti Yoga, you are in the, while you're in the material world itself, is as good as being in the spiritual world, and eventually you'll go to the spiritual world. Yes.
So the next question is from Khushbu Goyal. When one give up the yoga process in the middle, what benefits he get? Is he or she placed in higher planets or something else?
As I said, depending on at what stage he failed in the yoga process. In the beginning stage, if he fails, then he is promoted to heavenly planets. Just like a person in the beginning of some course, he fails, you have to encourage him. Too much encouragement you need to boost his enthu. So like that, if a person fails in the beginning, he is given more encouragement by allowing him to go to heavenly planets. But if a person fails at the higher stage, he is not interested in going to heaven. He wants to continue from where he left off. So for that, what is conducive is he is born in a well-to-do family where he doesn't need to bother about earning money and all those things. Or he is born in a very pious family where the environment is favorable for his doing devotion. So all this arrangement is done by God himself. Yes.
So the next question is from Lalit Aswani. Whether only by Bhakti Yoga one can reach the goal of life?
Yes, that's why Krishna is giving this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Although he's talking about these different yoga systems, ultimately he is the Yogeshwara who has given the system. So we have to follow his, that's why he's concluding this chapter by saying Yoginam api sarvesham matgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. Yes, there are different prescriptions for different people, but ultimately they should come to the highest level That is possible even in the beginning. Just like if you want to go to some place, you should have the map from the beginning. It's not that after you go somewhere and then you start looking at the map. So similarly, Bhakti Yoga has to be practiced from the beginning. You may be doing Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga initially because you have a desire to go to heavenly planets, or you want liberation, or you want to get mystic powers. But without Bhakti, these other forms of yoga will not get even the benefits that they give, and neither it can give something more than what they cannot. Yes.
So the next question is from KBN Purnima. In our day-to-day activities, how can we be detached ourselves and keep our mind stable?
So as we say in the second chapter, so Krishna says, higher taste. You need to cultivate a higher taste. If you have the way to detachment, that's why this chapter is talking about sannyasa and yoga. When can you accept something higher is when can you give up something lower is when you develop a taste for the higher. So that's why detachment will come when there's attachment. That's why Krishna says yoga. Detachment means sannyas. So the vairagya, the abhyasa to vairagya. When you practice something good, then you are able to automatically give up something which you cannot do normally. The detachment must come means why we are asking you to detach. We know it is not so useful. Just like an aircraft is there, it has to detach itself from the ground, and then only it can go at a higher speed in the air. Similarly, the detachment comes when you get attached through yoga. And Krishna is that's why saying in the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman Parityaja. We are attached to all these dharmas because we have some goals in mind. I will do this, I will get this. I will do this dharma, I will get this result. But Krishna says all these will take you here and there, but not to the ultimate result. So therefore, you give up that and just surrender to me. You follow my instruction. Then, aham tvam sarva papibhyo. Even if you follow dharma, you end up doing sin only. Just like in the Mahabharata war, everyone said we are following dharma, but they ultimately committed sin because they were not following Krishna's instruction.
So this was the last question. If anybody else has any question, you are free to post. Yes, there is a question from Khushbu Goyal. As you said, in later stages, the person may be born in rich family, but
So that is a general prescription, not necessary. Bhakti is independent.
it's not over.
Yeah.
But the person who is born in rich family might not do yoga and do something else. So does he realize on his own that he has to go on that path?
Yeah, that's why even though you are given that advantage of being born in a pious family or in a rich family, still there's scope for getting distracted. Anyhow, still Krishna is making a condition favorable, but something always you have to do from your side also. That endeavor cannot be given up. We have to do something. Then Krishna sees that sincerity and then makes some arrangement. In any case, devotion doesn't depend on these favorable or unfavorable circumstances. That is the point Krishna is trying to say. This what he's talking about is the yogi, who's not a real bhakti yogi. But if you are in the process of bhakti, Krishna says it doesn't depend on being born in a pious family or a rich family or whether you're going to heaven or hell, it doesn't matter. So that's why Krishna says you become a devotee.
Okay, so the next question is from Rajat Mishra. Sir, I fully agree and respect the concept of sensual detachment and control leading towards celibacy for leading a yogic life and experiencing the divinity. But as a novice learner, need your direction on why Lord Krishna himself chose to born as eighth child of his material world parents, whom I feel must be his biggest devout bhaktas, and thus got blessed to have him as his son. See, celibacy, you are.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
See, as I said, celibacy doesn't mean not marrying. Brahmacharya means being fixed in the conception of the self, Brahman. Brahma janati the Brahmana. So real celibacy means you are uncontaminated. You are in the platform of the soul. So then it doesn't really matter whether you are married or not married. For some people, not marrying will make them realize that they are the soul. For some person, being married will help them to realize the soul. Or some person being renounced or retired, it makes them celibacy. Real celibacy means, as I said, being conscious about that we are the soul and that we are part and parcel of God. So Krishna is not, for him, is a real brahmachari. So for him, doesn't matter whether he has 16,000 wives or no wife. Just he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he renounced his family. When he came as Krishna, he married 16,000 wives. When he was in Rama, he married only one wife. So he doesn't depend on these things. So therefore he is the perfect brahmachari. And we as practitioners, sometimes it's recommended to remain celibate, or sometimes when we cannot control our senses, then better to get married. So married or unmarried is not the qualification for celibacy. The real qualification is what is favorable for my cultivation of spiritual life.
So to add to that, because Krishna, when he comes or when he appears on the earth, he is doing multiple things at the same time. He has multiple objectives to fulfill with the same act. So those six elder brothers, they were yogis who had been cursed to be born in the material world. So, and they also were given some boon that the moment they are born, they will leave the body. So they will not be contaminated by the material world. That was one boon. And another reason is to show the level of atrocities that Kansa could do. His sister's children, he is newborn children. Who can think of killing newborn children? Even in today's world, it is unthinkable. And in those times, that too for a king, his own family, it is absolutely unthinkable. So the level of atrocities that people were being subjected to, and what Krishna came to, release them from, there are different levels at which one can understand the same thing.
See, because Vasudeva was a devotee of the Lord, he could tolerate that. So Krishna is showing through Vasudeva what means real tolerance. But actually, behind the tolerance, there is a plan. These sons were to be killed. That is beneficial for them to be killed by Kamsa. They get liberation by being killed. So this we cannot understand with our normal. Yes.
There are no further questions.
So thank you all. We'll join again next week. Very important chapter. That is the beginning of the.
Knowledge. Some people have come for the